Pops in a pod. Pops in a pod.
Welcome to Pops in a Pod. I'm Nadir Pop.
And I'm Peter Pop.
Peter, we've had musicians as guests before, but for the first time we are joined by a metalhead dad or metal pop.
Yeah, honestly, it's time for the distorted guitars, but I'm going to keep all the metal cliches aside for this episode because I'm joined by the founder and guitarist of Bevar Sea, the band from Bangalore, who I've known for a really long time. And I'm really glad that I'm also friends with our guest, Srikanth Panaman. Welcome to Pops in a Pod, Srikanth.
Hey, thanks, Peter. Thanks, Nadir. It's a pleasure.
Honestly, I have to put this out there, right? Is that everyone knows that I also co-host a podcast called Horns Up. And Srikanth was a guest with their other guitarist, Michael, on the podcast. And at that time when we were talking, I was like, wait, a lot of the questions I want to ask him, I also think are about parenting. So when we finally met after a long time, a few months ago, Srikanth, I was like, I have to get you on Pops in a Pod and have a whole separate discussion about, the album, everything that you guys have been doing in the last couple of years.
It all went hand in hand, right? Like during COVID, we were kind of planning this. We were also planning to put an album out because we basically hadn't done anything for 3 years, and this was like the perfect time for us to, do something sitting on the computer and, meeting people one by one without, having to get together in a studio. So I think both the projects went kind of parallel and lots of interwoven narratives here for sure. And we basically had to do both at the same time and fund both at the same time. It's like a double project. So Melissa and the baby are like, the band are like, yeah.
So let's put some context to what everyone's wondering, right? So last year, Srikanth not only released an album with his band Bevar Sea titled The Timeless Zone, but he also had a daughter, Melissa. And I love how you've titled them both projects because, when I was thinking about this, right, like literally Nadir and my lives over the last 2 years have been, podcast, work, online school, and then somehow getting sleep. But you've managed to ace it in all of the things. So right up front, do you have all these canned charts or productivity things? What's your Google Calendar looking like?
So I'm super organized at work, right? Like I work very little. I spend most of my time helping people manage their work. So I actually do very little direct work. So that allows me to be a little more flexible in terms of doing some of these other things, right? So I'm available to go to the gym around lunchtime. I'm available to take the baby to the pediatrician at like 4 p.m. I can do like a vocalist recording sometime in the afternoon. So my work is set up like that, and my work folks are also flexible enough to let me do all of this stuff. So I think I do that Pomodoro and all that stuff. I work really fast when I have to just finish stuff, take a break, and then just go back to it and that sort of a thing. A little more difficult when there is like a baby screaming and all of that stuff around the house. But I think work being easy really helps, managing the new child and also the band requirements. Suddenly there is talk of let's do another album, right? So we can handle it.
But in terms of your background, right? You have a regular job, and you play for this band, you front this band, so that's a whole bunch of responsibilities, and then you add the third layer of and I'll say marriage plus child, right? The child is something very recent. So 2 parts, right? This question has 2 parts. One is, how has your overall personality changed, right? Because musician, professional, and now dad. And secondly, how has your time distribution changed? Because all of them are, I'm sure, pretty equal, right? In terms of like responsibilities.
Yeah, I practically have no spare time. I don't get to watch all the binging stuff that everybody does. But I think a man's got to prioritize on like a daily basis, right? It's like, what do I do today? That sort of a thing. Again, like I'm super organized with my work. I wake up on a Monday morning. I know exactly what's in store for me for the rest of the week when it comes to work. But yeah, this is high maintenance in terms of managing a child, especially when a nanny is not around on a particular day. That's when I think everything kind of hits the fan, right? So yeah, I mean, you have to be super organized. You have to pick just 2 or 3 things that you can manage to pull off, right? You shouldn't be like very I'm going to read this, I'm going to watch these movies, I'm going to go travel. I've just not traveled for 2 years, 3 years, maybe. 2019 to Sri Lanka was my last trip. Then we've gone to Dhaka a couple of times, my wife's home, but we haven't gone anywhere else. So we're missing that. But we have to kind of prioritize and do what needs to be done, right? I think again, the same point, like I am an organized person in a way. I want things to be like super planned out when I open my laptop in the morning. When I even wake up, basically I just look at my phone. Oh, I have to do these 6 meetings today. I have like some time before this meeting, sometime after this meeting. Even for this one that we are doing, I've had to like go and mark myself out of office from my office calendar, so nobody else blocks my time. So office that way is super organized. Nobody's going to call me at 10, 11 to say, hey, we have some fire to fight and just help with that, all of that stuff. So we don't need all that stuff. So I just have to do these 2 things, which is basically band and wife and baby. So I think heavy lifting, but it's fun.
Okay, which is kind of a great segue to my next question to you, right? And this is something we've asked a lot of musicians that we've had as past guests. A lot of people talk about being in a band like being in a marriage, but that's always said like before you're married, right? Now that you're not only married but also have a kid, can you see parallels, or is it just like talk?
I don't at all. I mean, the thing is, right, with my band, I think there is some kind of soft dictatorship going on, right? If I don't do something, the rest of the band will not even, take that initiative. So the vocalist Ganesh might actually suggest, you guys want to write some music? Then somebody else might ask, what are we doing? That sort of a thing. But there is no like, oh, I've got like 10 songs here. Can we write a new album around this? None of that stuff happens. Can we go on tour like next month? None of that stuff happens, basically. So I control all of that stuff. I think it's good and bad, because sometimes I feel that I have to do all the heavy lifting. But I don't feel that at all. Like Ganesh, I've known for 20 years. We kind of know each other really well. Avinash also, it's been like 15 years. We're all introverted. We're all basically like mostly off social media types people. We want to just hang out and do some music on the side. We know exactly where music fits in our lives. We don't basically think it's more important than it should be, right? So I think when people are younger, people have too much ego. There is too much of creative conflicts, that sort of a thing, right? I think that's when these kinds of things happen. Oh, it's like having 5 girlfriends, and if you're in a band with 5 what is it called, drama queens and that sort of a thing. So I've never felt that, even when we've had band members leaving and stuff like that. It's just been like very polite. It's more like a workplace kind of a thing, except we don't take any of this seriously. We basically just have this we want to do the band like long term kind of a thing. We're not here just to jam and have fun, that sort of a thing. So we are thinking like, what to do for the 4th album, 5th album, 6th album. But that means that you should spend a lot of time away from each other. You should basically have very little room for friction and stuff like that, right? That only comes from having safe distance from each other. So we meet very little. We actually meet more now after the baby is born. Ganesh has got a kid. We've started to get together to play live. We've started to play live this year. So we're basically meeting more often now because there are more excuses to meet. we have our kids' birthdays and housewarming, and there's like all family type things that are happening. And what used to be like boys hanging out and shooting the breeze and having fun is more like all encompassing families hanging out, that sort of a thing, except it's all about music and metal on the side as well. So we've kind of managed to combine this personal, social, music kind of thing. This is our circle. I think in our circle, all the other folks also have their own bands, and all those bands are also kind of similar, right? They're all like, hobby, passion projects sort of a thing. They're all kind of in the same place. I haven't heard this, oh, I'm having issues with my bandmate, that sort of a thing in a long time. I think we're just getting old and we just understand what it means to be in a band and, focus on your career and make money and fund your expensive hobby, that sort of a thing. Everybody's on that trip now.
No, it's very interesting because you've clearly mentioned that there is a shift in personality that's happened, and I think that's also to do with you guys growing older, more mature, and with your daughter turning 1 now, right? Do you also sort of see that that extension that you just spoke about, that now as a band, we've really matured? Do you think that that's an extension because you've become a dad right now, and it's like, oh no, I've settled, so maybe I can kind of take that to the band and just tell them, hey, let's kind of cool off and just hang and do what we are good at? Do you think that has anything to do with you becoming a father, especially now that your daughter's 1? And like, what's that 1 year been like?
I think so, definitely. And I think indirectly this is some kind of midlife crisis for like some of us. Like we want to make sure that we want to do this band thing, like no matter what, right? It kind of maintains our identity, like what we used to do before. We don't want to be the kind of people, hey man, I used to be in a band, I used to listen to Metallica, and then I got married, man. I'm selling all my gear, and then I had a child, I'm selling whatever else I have left, I'm selling my CDs. So we don't want to be those bad apples. No, I mean, the baby is literally growing up listening to this stuff. She's dancing to like Bolt Thrower and death metal and stuff like that. So it helps that our wives are also kind of supportive, and actually my wife is more of an extreme metal fan, and she's more hardcore than I am with all of this stuff.
Wow.
But yeah. So it definitely helps. Even at Ganesh's place, there's like music happening all the time, and the kids also, I mean, Ganesh's kid is a little older, I think, knows that there is music happening. There is like a studio space where, Papa makes music, and the kid came over for the last gig that we did. So Ganesh's band, Megatron, played live, and the kid came for like 10-15 minutes and saw this happen, and then went back. So I think this is part of our identity. We don't want to lose it. We want the next generation to, carry that forward if possible. There's no pressure on them, but it's part of who we are. And at the same time, this is kind of like our midlife crisis, the way we deal with it. Like we can afford to buy things that we couldn't buy back in the day, right? We were always like, oh, I'm too broke to buy like a nice amp, but now I have like a bunch of nice amps, so I can do this now. I couldn't do this back then, right? I can actually have a proper studio instead of like like one small Motu or whatever device that people used to have back in the day. So I think now is like actually the right time to do like an expensive hobby like this. Lots of middle managers play their golf and tennis, and for us, this band gives us that kind of enrichment, I think.
I like how you put that, right? Is because the typical midlife crisis, the way you've seen it in Hollywood and all, it's like, get an expensive bike, a Harley Davidson, or you get one of those sports cars. But you just showed us the amount of amps that you have, which I think is a cheaper hobby of sorts. So kudos on that. But I want to dial back to something that you said, right? I mean, of course, it helps to have a partner who also listens to the same kind of music and things like that. Nadir and I have traded enough stories of this. But take us back to that moment, right? And the reason I'm specifically asking you this is one of the earlier guests that we had, Gaurav Chintamani, his son, I think you might have seen him on Instagram, does the covers of Beatles songs and more popular numbers now, and it's both of them. And Gaurav talked to us and said that the time his son was born, in the delivery room, Beatles was playing, and he could kind of trace that journey back. So, do you have a similar story, Srikanth? Like, is there a moment probably in your daughter's late teens she's going to be like, my dad used to play bolt thrower for me, that's why I'm such a hardcore fan?
Yeah, I mean, I remember I'm picking bolt thrower from all the bands that we play because that was, I think, my first memory of her listening to bolt thrower. I think she must have been like 7 days old, 8 days old, or something like that. We were driving to the pediatrician, and there was this bolt thrower blasting, and she was just nicely passed out. It was basically white noise for her, but it just worked. And she's super tolerant, no matter how heavy the music is, and she's just standing around dancing. Definitely, I think early start helps for sure.
I'm not much of a musician. I have a guitar. I tried hitting a few chords, and then that's about it. But the kind of music that I listen to is pretty varied, right? Unlike your wife, who actually does like the kind of music that you guys listen to, and probably even far beyond. My wife and I are polar opposites. Like, so if I like international music, more slanted towards rock, she'll be the exact opposite, and she'll go like proper mass Bollywood music, right? But then and there's this political crisis in the house where I'm trying to push music that I listen to onto my daughter, and she does the same thing with us. So suddenly you have this 6-year-old who's growing up where one song goes from Arijit Singh and then goes straight to Iron Maiden, right? And then she's like jiving to both of them. It's like, oh yeah, it's cool. And my wife's like, what is this noise? And I'm like, what are you listening to, right? This is not making sense. So, I mean, I totally get that. But in your case, I think it sort of works. And as of now, your daughter's cool about, I mean, she's just 1 year old, but what's her perception of the music that you make?
I don't know. I think she reacts to things with like solid beats. So we've played hip hop for her. We've played the Cocomelon crap for her. We've played all sorts of stuff. I think she's currently the spectrum is like really wide. She's appreciative of everything that we kind of throw at her. I think over time, I think she will be exposed to things from her peers and whatever they listen to music on. I think it can go either way, right? She'll embrace, what she grew up listening to, or she'll go complete opposite, saying, my papa's not cool at all. I will listen to something else on my own. I don't want boomer music or whatever the equivalent of that generation is. Like, yeah. But yes, currently she's exposed to everything. I can't say the same for my nephew. My sister and sister's husband are both into just the mainstream stuff. There's Tamil music, there is Bollywood maybe, and the kid in the US goes to Bollywood dancing and all of that stuff. So that's like a very narrow spectrum. So when the kid wanted to learn guitar, there was no direction, right? Like, you can't really say, okay, this is the style you'll learn to play. So you just have to follow the textbook, whatever the teacher is teaching you. There is no music at home. The kid doesn't get inspired, I think, the same way. So at least in a way, if I think we sense that the kid is beginning to like some part of what we generally play, we'll probably over time start to play a little more, maybe show her why she likes that, kind of how do I call it, critically explaining, okay, this is guitar, this is bass, this is why you like it, because there is this beat happening. Not now, but maybe when she's 10, 12, 13, whenever.
I know why I saying 10, 12, 13, because from I love you, Papa, to I hate you,
Exactly.
why do you have so many rules?
Yeah, exactly.
So like I know that feeling, because like I know what I did to my parents, and now that I'm seeing my son, I was just like, I have to just like prepare myself, because like then it'll come a full circle 8-10 years later again.
Yeah, just be open to all kinds of surprises, right? Like they can listen to whatever. Like I already don't like most of the modern kinds of metal, not from the last 15 years, 20 years, right? So I don't know what's in store for metal and rock and heavy music in general in the future, right? Like 10, 15 years down the line. She might like it and I might find it completely appalling, and I might have to buy her guitar to play that music. So even within metal, there is no like, there is so much conflict, so many disagreements. Like I like Queen, my wife doesn't like Queen. So even within rock, there is all of that stuff. So, but we both like Rush, which is awesome. That works.
It kind of brings me to another point which I was very curious about. I mean, like, I wanted to talk about the last album, but you're already talking about like next two albums, right? How does that work in terms of creative? I know you described the band earlier to us. Do you see like the way you approach your music in terms of very differently now that you're a parent? I mean, there's one aspect of it which you described as wanting to play live and wanting to still hold on to that, right, identity of sorts. But from a creative perspective, have you seen that change?
I think in terms of how I'm writing, how I'm allocating my time and resources to coming up with the music, it'll be more solo, in the sense that, okay, so I've got like 3 hours on a Saturday, 4 hours on a Sunday, and I promised these guys that I will give them enough riffs for a new song by next week. So it becomes more like, okay, I'm committing this much time for this song, right? And I've got to come up with stuff. I think I work really well if I do things like that, because generally speaking, when you're starting to write an album, the first half of the album is the slowest, creatively speaking, right? The first song probably takes the longest because you're obviously starting from scratch. There is nothing for you to take from the previous album, right? It's always like that. You do something creative, and then you're wondering when is your next creative piece? Where is it going to come from, right? Every writer feels that, every painter and artist feels that. So there is like absolutely zero confidence in yourself to deliver like an album. So I kind of take it easy and slow for the first half of the album, and then I do what I said I would do for the new album, right? I basically say, okay, this weekend I'm going to just finish like the 4th song. Next month, this weekend I'll finish the 5th song, like that, right? And then basically work with the guys to arrange and basically fine tune and add their parts and all of that stuff. I think I have to do like an entire album this way, instead of giving the first half of the album that 1.5 2 year kind of a leeway, right? Like you just do it more methodically and more organized kind of a thing, and it gives me more of a direction. So basically I will know that I have to start like the first riff itself in a way I have it in my mind, right? So there is no like, okay, this is not Bevar Sea kind of material, I'll keep it for something else. There is no room for all of that stuff. So I have to be like more calculated and methodical about this whole thing, because time is of the essence here. That's the only reason. Yeah.
How do you balance, because you know exactly what you want to do from a music standpoint? How do you balance that out from your responsibilities as a dad, as a husband, and as a musician? Like, do you have something in mind? You've mapped it out all nicely, or do you just like, as and when it comes, I know my responsibilities, I'll do my thing, but I also want to follow my passion. I don't want to kind of set that aside, because you're extremely you're very clear about it, that in today's day and age, yes, marriage is important, yes, having a family is important, but not to forget my passion, because that's something I'm very, very clear about.
I tend to choose a couple of things and put my focus on that, but that means that something else will slip away and people start complaining that, dude, you haven't responded to this in a while, that sort of a thing. And it happens a lot at home as well. You said you'd buy this from Amazon and you haven't bought it. I'm like, I forgot. I haven't paid the electricity bill on time this month. That sort of thing always happens because I'm focusing on, in my mind, what is more important, of my time. So it always happens. I'm kind of trying to see if, okay, I want to piss my wife off a little less. So if she says something, maybe keep that like at this level, maybe at the slightly above music, slightly below work kind of priority. So I'm still learning as I go, because that's all I can do, right? But that's the only thing. I mean, I'm super organized on one side. I'm extremely lackadaisical, like lazy and non-committal on the other. But work in progress, and I think my family knows this is also important to me. I keep telling them, look, it's not that, but like during the week, Monday to Thursday, I think I may have to do this over something else. If you can do it yourself, do it yourself. I can, give you the facilities and the infra for you to do that. But if it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, hold me by my neck and just I'm accountable for anything that I should be doing and I'm not doing on a weekend, right? So when like, for example, if it's a Monday and I have to, like, say, change a bulb, and I say I'll do it on Friday, and I will obviously have to do it on Friday. So that's something that I have to do. If I don't, it's not good.
On another aspect, right, and especially for Nadir and me who live in Bombay and have been remotely recording this podcast for the last 2 years, right? We live in Bombay, let's be honest. Space is a major issue, right? But on contrast, you showed us your room and you've got like amps and you've got like a recording studio and stuff like that at home. How's that been? Like, how does Bangalore really have that much space?
Dude, you're just seeing one corner of this. This is 95% baby's room. Are you seeing the diaper? Are you seeing all baby stuff? Yeah.
Oh.
I literally have a corner of this room, right? And this is something that I've had to deal with. Basically, we've had to move recently, so I had to give up on my precious studio. But we did that thing that couples do. We actually bought a house, and we were moving next year. And that does have the space that you're talking about. So we've got like nice 4 bedrooms and study and garden and stuff like that. So that's happening next year, though. That will give me like my own office space, studio space. That will give the baby her own room and all of that stuff. Yeah, currently it's like terrible. I really don't have this space. I can't even sit and work efficiently. It's not even set up to write music or whatever. I practiced for the last gig, and there was like Bombay style space for standing and yeah.
Oh my god, I'm pretty sure like everyone from Delhi, Kolkata, all the other metros are just like, oh yeah, you guys have no idea what spaces or what housing is like.
Yeah,
But
you're going to reclaim your man cave or
Yeah.
your den.
Yeah, definitely. So I have like this wish list in terms of how I want it, and I hope it happens in time for our next album recording. So that's my only goal. So mid next year is when this is going down. Early next year we should start on, how should it look? What is the gear I should buy? There's a whole bunch of stuff here, but I want it better and all of that stuff. So let's see.
awesome. So I think this is a perfect time to end this episode, because we know that in 6-8 months we'll do another episode. Is how do you record at home and also have a kid's place? We can definitely do a completely different episode of Pops in a Pod with you.
Sweet. Baby metal.
Isn't that a genre? I swear that's a genre. I'm pretty sure I've heard of that, baby metal.
It's a band.
Oh my god.
I'll make you listen to it after this. But
Yeah, it's quite horrible.
Srikanth, I'll let Nadir have an unbiased thing. But thanks so much, Srikanth, for taking time out, and thanks to all your office people for not bugging you for the last.
Hey, they rule, man. They were all there for the gig that we just played. Like all 10, 12 from my team. They all turned up, and it was their first exposure to anything heavy and guitar oriented. They had a blast. They were like headbanging, and they were like completely. For the next few days, they were telling me how awesome it was.
Thanks so much, Srikanth. I mean, this has been a great experience and exposure to us to speak to a rock star, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you all the best. Yeah, I had a great time doing this. Call me anytime.
Thanks, man. Thank you so much, Srikanth, and good luck for all your endeavors.
Thanks, dudes. All the best.
And that was Srikanth, the metal dad. Srikanth spoke to us about what it's like to manage 2 babies and his parenting journey One baby is, well, the real baby, and the other one is his music project. If you have a great story to tell, then please do write to us on popsinapod@gmail.com, or you can just search for popsinapod on Instagram and check out the cool stuff that we do and keep updated on the episodes that we put out every week. So thank you so much, guys, for hanging out with us, and see you next week.